a really common worry or like question from a lot of people is around classroom management, and we've touched on this a little bit already. But could you tell us a little bit about how do you actually handle things day to day, like spotting the behavior, keeping track of who's who, or marking and reading handwriting and things like that? What does that look like in reality for VI teachers?
Classroom management is something that everyone stresses about, regardless of whether you're VI. So I know when I was training, that was the main thing that came out from everyone about what do we do. And
Mm,
you'll find your own niche. Like there are very different styles of teaching. There are those little old ladies who can walk into a classroom and everyone is silent and you just don't understand how they do it. And then there are huge people covered in tattoos where the class will go mental for them and not listen. So you'll find your own niche. You'll get it wrong probably at the start, just finding your feet. So my first year with the train wreck, and then I did from the next year, I'd made all the mistakes the first year and got a new class, and behavior management has never been a problem really since then.
mm,
In terms of like reading work, I just get the children to read it to me a lot.
mm,
So if you teach really low down reception year one, their writing is massive anyway because they can't write neatly. So you won't have an issue. You'll have an issue reading it because they can't spell, not because you can't see the letters, if that makes sense. But obviously, the
mm,
higher you get, and by year six, and they're writing pages, and some of their writing is beautiful, but it's small. My class know that I can't mark over their shoulder. So in an ideal world, you'll walk around, you'll read their work over their shoulder, and you can correct it as you go, which I can't do. So I have to
mm,
stop and pick up their book and go through it that way, and they're just used to having to wait for a little bit more. But
mm,
they will happily read you their work, and sometimes it'll be so illegible they'll have to read it anyway. So even though mine don't directly know that I'm VI, they know I can't necessarily see very well, but they don't know that I don't have a car because I'm not allowed a car. They kind of just get used to it,
mm.
and so I don't know. I don't know what Charlotte or other people have found like teaching year two and their writing, whether it's similar. But you'll find your own little hacks, your own niches, and don't ever be afraid to ask the children for help because they're always very glad to help. They'll happily
That's
read their
that's
work to you.
Yeah, that's really interesting to know. Thank you, Josh. Is anyone else want to pitch in on this? How do you guys handle marking, especially in like a secondary school setting? I guess maybe
Mm.
Laura.
So for me, I kind of have it a bit easier in the fact that I teach maths, so it's right or it's wrong, and we get a lot of our kids to do their own marking. We do a lot of self-marking in my school, but also I will constantly go around my classroom and try and mark where I can. But I do have some students, especially not just at GCSE, but maybe like A level, so 16, 17s, where their handwriting is small and you can't really read it. So the way that I get around it is they'll say to me, they'll be like, Miss, I'm happier writing on a tablet. So they'll do all their homework, all their classwork on a tablet, and then they'll say to me, "Can I send it to you?" So they'll send it to me electronically, and this might help other people that struggle with seeing over the shoulder or something. Getting your students to send it in secondary electronic to you, because you can then make it however big you want to. Obviously, on PDFs, you can easily, with a pen, go through and mark it and do things the size you need to. But my students don't even know I have a visual impairment and it's not the most obvious. So for me, I can easily go around and mark, but I also allocate specific times that I spend like going, right, this is my time to focus on myself, but this is my time I'm going to mark. But as I said, we do it because I have an easier subject where it's right or wrong. A lot of the kids mark their own and I only have to mark work like once every 2 weeks is the way that we do it. And even when it comes to big amount of marking, like test time, in our department, we're quite lucky that we're big in the fact that we make it fair to everyone. So when it comes to the end of your exam, you have two lots of groups to mark. You don't have everything to mark, which makes things a lot easier and a lot fairer
Mm,
for everyone involved. But as Josh rightly said, with like behavior management stuff, you find your way. There are so many times that you want things to be perfect, but nothing is perfect in teaching. Nothing ever goes the way you want it to. And if you go from that from the beginning of, right, I'm just going to take it as it comes each day, then you're less likely to beat yourself up and go, oh, why can't I like that teacher get it bullshit? And the kids will warm to who you are as a person. Like mine obviously don't know that I have to close my eyes every 2 seconds, but they just take me for who I am, and they'll do the same for anyone. Kids these days, I'd say, are a bit more welcoming and warming than they were probably back when some of us were children ourselves.
Thank you, Laura. That's really reassuring. Thank you. Um, can I come to Daniel or Chris maybe as kind of people on the other end of the spectrum of like how do you manage marking if you are a screen reader user or someone who can't use magnification as well or
Okay, yeah, I can jump in first, shall I? So,
yeah.
the biggest thing that I found is a big win is electronic. I saw both sides of this because my first placement was great. We basically did everything on Google Classroom. We used class charts for pretty much everything, so you could see you could see, for instance, if a student was having a challenging day or what have you, you could see that. You could see, oh, the note, the teacher from last class left a note, so I can see that. It was the same thing with marking. Everything was submitted electronically, and that can be,
Mm,
positive or negative depending on who you are. But then I saw the inverse of that with my second placement, where part of the reason that I had some challenges, and like Laura said, we all have challenges in teaching. You just kind of have to take it as you go and say, I'm learning every day. But they were doing everything on paper, and that was one of my big challenges that, I never found a satisfactory outcome to in that placement. But part of that, I think, was the departmental support I had, wasn't the best. So, the people who were there and are kind of supposed to be, they're mentoring you, and all that good stuff didn't really know how to handle that adaptation. But to circle back around to the more positive side, the school I'm working in now, it's like built to be accessible. So, most stuff is done electronically. I've had students give me, stuff written on a brailer before. I've even had colleagues say to me, if you ever need anything embossed out or brailled out, or you can't, read something, just, let us know and one of us can help you out. So I think, one of the big things is really, remembering that you do have a team around you who's there to support you. That'd kind of be my 2 cents worth anyway.
Brilliant, thank you. It's so interesting to hear different, perspectives, and it seems like the common thread is that you, like with anything, you just have to work out your own methods, but there are a lot of different possible solutions. So that's really helpful to know.